While many are focused on the financial use cases for blockchain, others are building out tech to utilize blockchain to make things we do better. In 2019, people around the world spent over $250 billion on books. Understanding how people purchase and consume the written word provides us with a use case begging for a better mousetrap. Today, we welcome Joshua Stone, CEO and co-founder of Book.io, to the show to discuss the future of books. This is especially interesting to Travis and myself as we're both published authors. So listen, watch, or read along on our sponsored episode number 678 of the Bad Crypto Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition.
Who's bad?
Welcome to the Bad Crypto Podcast, the show for the crypto curious, the crypto serious, and today the book nerds. Joel Comm here and Sir Lord Travis Wright, other book nerd over there.
That's true. Between Joel and I believe we've written 16 books. Joel's written about 15 of those. So got to catch up.
Yours is really, really good. So there's that. Some of mine are bad. But by the way, you say that all the time, but you don't mention the 25 ebooks that I've also written.
Oh my God, we never even discussed that. So collectively, folks, we have written 42 books. Joel's written 41 of them, but that's okay.
Now I need to go count and find out at how many actually, so I can have an extra count of that.
Yeah, I'm going to work on a new book. I'm working on a new book. We're going to discuss that too today. So let's go.
Yeah, your new book is going to be how to write 42 books with AI and in one sitting, so I can catch up with.
Well, your books are how to write with ghostwriters, so it's good. I mean, it's kind of AI is kind of a ghostwriter. It's like a super ghostwriter.
Well, you guys, we get a lot of email and a lot of pitches to us for people wanting to be on the show. And many times people are saying, hey, we'll pay you money to come on your show. It's been a long time. It's very rare that we have taken money from anybody to do a sponsored episode. And the way we look at it is, hey, if somebody is a guest on the show and they bring a ton of value, and then there's an, oh, by the way, this is my website, that's not sponsored material. That's pure content. But when somebody comes on and they've got a great product and we think it's great and we want to bring it to you, then it becomes a sponsored interview. So to disclose fully and completely, we are being compensated for this interview today, but we have vetted this project. We like what we see. We like the dude we're about to welcome to the show. And with that, we're going to bring the CEO and co-founder of, check out this domain, Book.io. His name is Joshua Stone. He's got over 25 years in the tech industry and many of those in the publishing industry, revolutionizing how we purchase and consume book material. Josh, welcome, sir, to the Bad Crypto Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. A big fan. It's a great treat to sit down and talk with you both.
Well, it's a treat for us, and your background is a treat. We have behind us AI variations of our books. You have a real world variation of your studio behind you.
True. They're actually the digital books that we've done, but in print form. So kind of the reverse.
So let's start with this, Josh. What is broken in the book industry that needs to even have a blockchain solution to make it better?
That's a good question. So if you buy a book today, a digital book from an online retailer, right, a Kindle or an iBooks, either an ebook or an audiobook, you don't actually buy that book. What you're buying is a license just to view it. So if you unsubscribe from that platform, move away from it, you lose all access to your books. And with that licensing agreement as well, what you're really agreeing to, if you look in the fine print, is the publisher, the author, or even the retailer can go in and take that book off your shelf. This is kind of the recent stuff that's happened where they've gone in and changed books to, make them more woke or whatever, but they can change contents of books.
Yeah, I noticed that 1984, the book changed and they got rid of certain parts of it. And there was a bunch of other sort of banned books that are you can't even have it in your Kindle. They take them away.
They actually changed 1984 itself.
Yeah.
I mean, is that not just?
Recall, they changed some stuff in there to make it more woke or to.
That's irony on display.
Actually, Joel, 1984, the book, it never existed. Did you not know? That's a figment of your imagination. So it's kind of wild how that can actually happen, Joshua. How ownership is not true ownership. It's like you're paying to use a digital library, essentially. If that's the case, if they can delete you from accessing your books that you bought or your audiobooks that you don't actually own them. That's one reason why Joel and I are like, wow, this book platform, if it's done correctly, and I think it's a lot of it's still kind of early UX and there's some early stuff going on, but the functionality is there. It reminds me, like last night I was playing with it. You go to book.io, you connect your wallet, and then you can read a book. And it looks to me like if I'm looking at it online, which I wasn't using my phone or anything, it looks to me like I was using the online Kindle reading version of it, right? Because the book looks like a print book. It's still kind of got that look and feel, but I could actually just read it right from my desktop on the browser.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing when you really, like, I guess kind of backing up just a little bit, we have a history in books, I do, and I've been a big fan of crypto for a long time. And so as I started to think about kind of what, going back to your question, Joel, about what's broken, it's like there is this issue, but really like when you get deeper into it, it's like we don't actually own the digital assets that we buy, right? So it's like we've seen this with crypto and NFTs, and I've participated in all that for years. When it sort of occurred to us, books and music and movies are sort of the same way, right? I purchase them, but I'm really just like leasing them or buying like access.
Yeah, as I talk to my son, who's a big gamer, this is one of his big beefs with the gaming industry. It's the same thing. Used to be you'd go buy a box software, you'd have the floppy disks, you would have a physical possession, and you would install it on your computer. And when you're done with it, you box it back up with the disks and the manuals in there, and you could sell it to somebody, and then you reap the benefits. Now you're buying a license to the game, and you're in their environment. If they ever decide to shut down their multiplayer servers, which some have done recently, then all of a sudden your game, at least that aspect of it, is worthless. So it is a broken system. And so blockchain fixes this. How? Not that I don't know the answer, but I want you to say it.
Yeah, so we do things a little bit differently than the current sort of NFT space. So we use NFTs as like a form of validating the ownership component, but the entire guts of the book itself are completely decentralized. So we take a book or file, we break it apart into lots of little chunks. All those are encrypted. All those are stored in decentralized storage, and then our DApp reader basically verifies that you own that, and then it streams in those bits and re-encrypts them and reassembles it so you can read the content. So unlike traditional NFT where everything is public, and there's been some other kind of early like predecessors of this where they've put out something as a book, but really you can still go and view like just a PDF file or an EPUB file uploaded to IPFS. So we really started to think about it in terms of, just with our background from the publishing side, how do we overlay like a DRM, like a digital rights management like system over top of this so that the content is truly encrypted and protected, which is what publishers and labels and studio houses, like, it's what they can't give all of their contents away for free. That's why they're trying to push them through all these streaming services. So we sort of change that and say, let's use the NFT as like a component of it. So we've formed a new type of asset that we call a decentralized encrypted asset. We call them DEAs for short, and that sort of holds the entire asset and all the components that create and build it. So you truly own it. It can't be changed. It's written to the blockchain. It's unburnable. It's unbannable. This is great too, because then we can penetrate countries where books are not accessible, right? We can get them in through the blockchain, and we've seen that happen actually in some cool instances. So yeah, it's way different than the current system.
I think it's really fascinating. And I was talking to Joel about this once we were starting to chat with you. And I was like, I was thinking of this, is that I have so many books that I bought, like on my bookshelf. I just moved to a new place here a couple of years ago, so I didn't move a lot of my books. I just bought new ones that were relevant that I wanted to read. And I was like, I bet I've personally read maybe 20% of the books that I've gotten on my shelves, and most of them I haven't bought. I go, what would be so cool to me is if it was almost like books were like an album, and it was like, here's the album, here are the 14 chapters of this particular album, or book, and you can go and buy the first one, or maybe they give you the first one for free. And then you go, oh, I loved it. I read it. I'm going to keep it going. So having mechanisms in there to buy a book by chapter instead of by the whole property, or maybe having it as an NFT that's a holder that says there's 14 slots in here because there's 14 chapters, and you could buy them all and they can combine. Is that something you guys are working on or thinking on? I know we've had some conversations offline about some things, but what's an official something around that you guys are working on?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. This, like, serialization of content is very interesting, right? Because what we really built, right, is like what exists currently is there's just an EPUB file and it's a book. What we've done is really created a way where it's like a programmable book, so it can do a lot of different things. So in that instance, right, from a serialized standpoint, it could be that where you buy individual chapters, or you could buy a subscription in effect to that book as like a primary token, and then you just receive airdrops of those chapters as they're written. So we've done some experiments like this already, where also with some like book series, right? So if you own book 1, 2, and 3, you automatically receive book 4 if you're holding those earlier copies, right? So there's just a ton of different ways you can like merchandise and market and like really change the way that you receive books and how they're distributed.
There's a lot going on here, both for consumers and for creators. And on this platform itself, you've got a store, you've got a token, you've got NFTs. I'm going to go ahead and share the screen for those that are watching on the video. Why don't you kind of go ahead and walk us through how this actually works?
Yeah, for sure. So let's see what we're looking at here is basically our page of all the stuff that's coming up. So we released right now to 3 different blockchains. Like our goal from a creator standpoint is to be blockchain agnostic, so a creator can deploy to any chain they want. So we started off with Cardano, which is a little unusual, but we were very adept in Haskell, so it was an easy entrance. We've deployed to Ethereum and to Polygon as well, and then we're in the process of our 4th blockchain, which we're super excited about. We're going to debut that at Consensus this year. So there's a bunch of different books in here. In our instance, what we've done too, right, is like kind of going back to you guys' point about I think Joel, you said 42 books, right? You have no way to see, even if you owned all 42 of those books, like what your bookshelf would be worth in real time, right? So like, since we have the ability now to have these sell in the secondary markets, we can get pricing information. So all of them have we do a rarity chart for each book. We use some different AI artists, and we develop a bunch of different covers. So there's sort of a whole system from the collectible side, and then we've started to move more into a mass production side, right, where there's like it's much more like a print book where there's a single cover. We just did this recently with Wizard of Oz on Polygon. There's a single cover, and then there's like a huge amount of units, but then the price point is really low, right? Because what we're wanting to demonstrate is there is a collectible side. Just like if I went in a physical bookstore, right? I go in a physical bookstore, most of it's just like mass produced stuff, and then there's this kind of small like rare collectible section. So we can do that same exact thing with blockchain. We have very ultra rare collectible stuff, like our Alice in Wonderland was our first release on Ethereum. Over to this side where there's just a single cover, and there's and it's an entire book, and really the purpose is just to say that there's a bigger utility here, right? That was just like too matic, right? It's really cheap. Some of the more expensive ones,
is that because those are maybe out of copyright because it's been over 75 years, so some of those early ones you're able to go out there and kind of grab those and purpose them in your way?
Yeah, so what's funny is we started with we launched last July 2022. And we started with public domain books because they're free and there's no copyright issue around it. So we were like, let's generate some cool art, and we were really just trying to build a mass collection of books to go back and talk to all of our publishing partners. And what happened was like all of them sold out in like seconds, and then it started this thing where we had a growing kind of audience. It was great, and every time we put a book out, everything would just sort of sell out like almost instantaneously. And I love
that how this one right here there's 1,000 books. And you got 157 unique book covers, and then 97 of them are a one of one. So if you got that book cover, that's a unique book cover. That NFT, your book could literally go from being a liability sitting on your bookshelf to becoming a freaking awesome asset.
Yeah, 100%. We've had I think our highest sell was around $11,500 for like a single
Wow.
ebook, which is pretty awesome. Yeah. And I
Wow.
think, honestly, I think it's really just we're trying to get momentum and get it going and get it started. Like we're, the base is growing. And I think as we expand to these more chains and we've got some bigger kind of partnerships with some larger authors and publishers coming up, that's going to be super exciting.
So somebody can go to the site, they connect their wallet, they can buy with ETH or Matic or Cardano, depending upon the book. And then is this your own e-reader DApp that you've created, or can people read these on, their Kindle or other methods? Like how do you make this convenient for people to consume?
So we do have an e-reader, the DApp, that's an HTML5 reader that you can read on the site here. And then we also released an Android reading app and an iOS reading app. And sort of the goal, there's kind of this fundamental difference, right, between like a centralized retailer, right, like a Kindle. They work in a much more walled off way. So they're not sharing a lot of data with an author or a publisher. It's very much, they see it as their user, and then they're cutting a check to, as you guys probably know, when you're selling books through Amazon, you don't have direct access to, your reading base, right? So in our instance, like, wanting to, effectively decentralize that model so creators have access to their direct access to their audience. We can do a lot of different things there. So and Amazon or an iBooks isn't really going to be inclined to, want to necessarily work with us. However, we're building some SDKs out that will actually launch from different wallets. So you could launch it and read it from any other wallet or any other reader, right? There's some other smaller e-readers out there. We're talking to some device manufacturers as well, which is super exciting.
So it sounds to me like there's the potential for just a complete reimagining of books. One of the things that I thought about before, Joshua, was I think I thought about like 5-6 years ago, around when VR becomes more prevalent or when AR becomes more prevalent, like to have those goggles on while you're reading a physical book. It could literally say, using computer vision, know which book you're reading or see the words that you're reading, and then read it to you like in Morgan Freeman's voice or something. That's kind of one of the things that I was thinking about for even new books, is like, here's how I most love to consume books. I like to have the book in front of me, normally a paper version, while I'm listening to an audiobook version of that. On Kindle, it's called Whisper Sync. But with AI being so amazing now, you can almost build AI into your reader platform and have it read it to you in whatever voice you want it read to you in.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We're experimenting with some AI voice stuff with a couple different partner companies.
Yeah, maybe use 11 Labs. You can have your own voice read your book to you.
Yeah.
Like that would be an insane sort of meta. What?
Yeah, it really would. The sample set's really small too. It's crazy. It's like 82 words or something, I think you say, and then they can reproduce your entire vocabulary. It's wild.
I want to have my book read to me in the voice of a sexy French maid. And now we'll read to you Twitter power. My name is Francine. Bonjour. Is that a thing?
That's a very good idea, Joel Comm. I do not.
So these are my books right here. I went into my library and I've got The Art of War and The Wizard of Oz. I've got mint number 119 of The Art of War and Wizard of Oz number 430. And I could send this book to somebody else. I go, all right, I'm done with this. I've got my war and my art done. Sun Tzu nailed it. And here you go, Travis. I can send it to your wallet, or I can read it. Same thing with The Wizard of Oz. And when I click read, now my wallet is connected. I've already validated that I own the book by connecting my ledger. And now I can go into here and I can read the book. All about Dorothy and Toto and Twisters and Wicked Witches and so forth.
So
yeah,
Joshua,
so all this is just streaming in right now.
Yeah, this is good. What about this? Is there a way to sort of, include, so because this kind of takes the, the print model, right? Gutenberg, I'm putting ink to paper, right? You don't have to do that digitally. Can we construct books in a new way that we can add, creative, colorful images in the book, sort of emojis, all kinds of those things?
Yeah, absolutely. So our first book that we released last year, the very first one, we actually did like the 1456 version of the Gutenberg Bible in Latin, like the original OG very first printed book, kind of just as an homage to the the revolutionary step and knowledge dissemination. And so within that book, it was a really good challenge because it's about 8 times the size of a normal book, just the raw like textual size.
Right.
But then we inserted high resolution photos of the original throughout it, and then we actually put a video in it as well. And all of it's completely decentralized. You can only see, and go through it if you actually own it.
And then when you're done, Joel, you can send it to someone else.
Right. That's like I read the book. Rather, because they got like, where I was in Denver, and I know many places around the world, they have this little book house, and people would take their books and they'd put them in there and, leave them for others to come by and get, or they'd sell them on eBay or at the flea market or whatever. And, these book clubs pass them around. And this is like one central marketplace. Now, there's something here that I want to point out that is a really big deal. Many people know publishers by their name, Penguin, Random House, and so on. You might not know what Ingram is. Ingram is the biggest distributor of books. Like a lot of the books Amazon gets, they get from Ingram. And you guys did a deal with them. They have actually invested. Ingram has invested with book.io. Talk about how important that is.
Yeah, I mean, from the industry perspective, it's huge, right? They are the biggest book distributor in the world. They have operations literally, everywhere. They, for the most part, if you buy a physical book, most people don't know this, but like if you buy a physical book, like most of the time, that book doesn't exist until you hit the order button on Amazon. And within, their SLA with Amazon is super tight. So within 48 hours, right before that book shows up for 2-day shipping, they receive your order, they print that book, they print the cover, they bind it, pack it, ship it, and get it to you. And so they are, by far and away, like the biggest name in all of publishing on the print side. And so they had actually invested in a prior company that we had done in the publishing industry and sold that company. And I'm very interested in just like the infrastructure of like what we're doing using blockchain to power digital. And they have a kind of a funny story that the CEO there, he had the opportunity to take a 30% share of Amazon at one point early on. Jeff Bezos had come to him and offered him 30%, but he wasn't sure if it would work. So he didn't invest, but he did fulfill, access to books, which is what Amazon started with, of course. So they're a huge name. And then we have another one as well. Like we were pretty strategic in like who we wanted to invest. The other one is Bertelsmann, their digital media investments group, which they own. It's a massive media conglomerate. Yeah, they own BMG and part of Sony, and then they own all of Penguin Random House on the publishing side. Huge. Yep.
That is a big deal.
I love this, Joel. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like having both of us be authors. You more authory than most, and then taking that and then being able, it seems to me that this is a way, Joshua, to sort of wrap community into the book experience, especially if you're offering it as a serial.
100%, because we can do a lot of really cool stuff. Like we do some different things through Discord right now, but we're building out sort of a social side. So if you have those books, because then we can do really cool stuff too, where we verify if you've actually read it, right? So maybe to be in a particular group, right? If you think about it in sort of a Discord sense, right? You not only would have to own those books, but we would have to verify that you've actually read them, and then you get access. So then you get really qualified. You're talking to really qualified super fans, right?
You're talking to people who actually truly love you. And then what's interesting is that you can do so many things on the fly with these. It's just, my mind's going a million miles an hour, Joel.
Yeah, there's so much. And I'm looking through on OpenSea some of these book covers. I don't know if you saw the one I was just showing there, this cowardly lion that just looks like he's badass.
Was those all Midjourney created?
So they there's a couple different combinations of software, and some of it that they've written in Python to overlay. So we've kind of created some of our own modules too to do some of this.
Look how cool that is with the twister taking out the Kansas farm home. Well, this is fantastic. You guys can go check this out. Go to book.io and poke around there. I say, go grab a book. You can get, a book here for a couple Matic. That's, like
True.
a couple dollars, and try
I got one last question, Joel. I was just thinking about it.
Sure.
I was rambling with my last question because I forgot this question. So can we have books, Joshua, that are maybe we're going to sell it, but it's unlimited amounts of them? It's like, I want to take this book and I don't care how many people buy this first chapter. You get access to it. Then you're able to do additional stuff because you have access, but the whole book could be its own. There could be a minimal amount or a maximum amount of those, or there's other NFT properties, but I want as many people who wants to get one of these as possible. Is there a way to sort of do an unlimited mint?
Yeah, definitely. Like we've actually done one mint that we did was basically almost like fungible, right? So there was no difference between the books. They weren't numbered. There was nothing different between them. And that you can time box to, like, you could make it available for a certain amount of time, or it could just be like, non-ending. And you can do all kinds of crazy different ways that have not been possible through the traditional mechanisms.
Love this. Joel, this is good stuff, huh, brother?
It's just getting started too. So really encourage you guys to go over to Book.io and check this out. Josh, is there anything else you would like to share with the Republic of Bad Cryptopia?
Let's see. Yeah, I mean, just excited to be on here. I think, we've got some really exciting stuff coming up, doing a big thing at Consensus with this new blockchain. Let's see, next month too, in May, we're going to drop one of Mark Cuban's books. He was actually one of our earliest seed investors. And
Nice.
Super excited about that. And then on the music side too, because we've developed out audiobook capabilities, because audiobooks are growing. And really, there's no difference between an audiobook and an album, right? It's just a set of tracks with music.
Okay.
So we're starting to work with a few different artists and collaborate on how we're going to produce, basically almost like going back to CDs, right? Where like you have to own this album in order to listen to it.
It's true. It's decentralized DRM.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So DDRM would be the thing.
I might steal that.
So
That's good.
When this show runs, we're going to be at NFT NYC. Are we going to see you? Are we seeing you now there in New York?
Yeah, we've talked about going up there. So, what's funny is we're kind of torn between, we do a lot of book stuff too, right? So I'll be in London in a couple weeks at the London Book Fair. So we kind of go back and forth between crypto related stuff and book related stuff. So we're always like juggling like exactly what to do.
Tying the worlds together. Well, Josh, appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much. And we appreciate you guys out there in the Republic. Check out the site. And of course, as always, we like your reviews. We'd love your feedback. badcryptopodcast@gmail.com is where to find us. And Josh, we're going to bestow on you a very unique honor that only a handful of people get to do, but you get to close us out and tell people what they need to do.
Thank you guys. I appreciate your time. Stay bad.
Who's bad?
The Bad Crypto Podcast is a production of Bad Crypto LLC. The content of the show, the videos, and the website is provided for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. It's not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice of any kind. You shouldn't make any decisions as to finances, investing, trading, or anything else based on this information without undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional financial advisor. Please understand that the trading of Bitcoins and alternative cryptocurrencies have potential risks involved. Anyone wishing to invest in any of the currencies or tokens mentioned on this podcast should first seek their own independent professional financial advisor.